Okay, now bring up the other video.
Still a little.
Right,
It's out.
there we go.
Out. Like a focus and it's not really talking. Oh, really? No, no, it's in that camera. Let's see. So your editor for the beginning.
I do want to minimize it and view. Who's here. Else is here yet. Lights, I'm going to mess. I promise I won't shut off all the lights at once. I'm gonna see if I can make it a little brighter over there, or darker over there, though. That's not what I wanted.
There you go.
That's better.
Air carriers in that area, as I see a lot of times. The city good road, in that big field.
There's one where we out there, so I'm still.
It's like a
Eric, I didn't think would be.
Ian.
No, you were. My right hand person. It's a little different than the hard chairs up there.
It kind of all do anything. It could be anything. She could have an emotion around those people that are.
She doesn't know whether to pick it up.
So can I do the sneaker for night or not? He doesn't think it. They're not coming in, they're doing anything in Wright Hill.
It's scary.
Next year.
Late. I don't understand why this is any different than any of the other places.
I don't even. It's the first time you see that something.
And where they're putting solar jobs in just a hayfield.
Yeah.
And neither of those birds that they're concerned about.
Everybody wanted it.
That's right, I nested in a hay. I know.
On the 7th in my Wisconsin.
I looked up the birds.
We definitely have those areas there.
Okay,
Yeah.
I need
But they're not
like an
nesting
extra
in that
minute,
field.
because I can't get the Wi-Fi down here, so
Trees.
I gotta just connect it to my
Yeah.
hotspot.
And this- No,
Why do they call them grass?
well, they would up there. Because they're eating rodents and stuff.
You guys didn't get anything back from DEC.
Well, I don't think they were, we can just stock.
So we won't be able to do the rest of the year tomorrow.
You signed it? Yeah.
Unless DEC signs off on it, other things move. You know,
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are a lot of runs around, but I didn't
Let
realize.
me know when you're ready.
I don't understand. why This is any different than any of the other things you must do.
There's one for that. The gray, I'm not thinking of the gray. It's the gray.
Harrier.
Yeah.
Then you do it. Yeah, that's already. when you
Like
come.
gray, white, gray, black. Gray.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
That's enough.
He's coming up.
They have that white run patch. It's really interesting.
Hi, John. Thanks.
Thanks.
Fine. Okay.
Put your address, please.
We'll do it this way. All right. I just need to note down.
Figured it out.
I'm doing it a different way.
Thank you.
These are all.
Oh.
Well, it hurts.
All of the, all of it's hot. Messed up in the top of the trees.
Eric will not be here, correct? What she said, and Siggy, we're not sure about.
But it's just the-
Um,
Right.
We just want everybody to figure it out.
Burgers building this on the ground.
I risked safety.
Mike.
There's nothing other than.
That's right.
If you look at.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. I reached out. Yeah, maybe.
Okay, here's the gate.
He's online. He is online.
Start.
Oh, we got it.
Oh, great.
All right, now we can start.
All right, guys.
All right, we'll go ahead and we'll call the meeting to order. Guys ready? So I'll start with introducing the board and then we'll open and then the developers will do a brief overview of the project and then I'll open it up for public comment. I'm Deborah Backus. I'm the chair of the planning board.
John Casterly,
Ian McKellar.
Betsy Hunt.
Bill Myers.
Siggy Bar. I'm Jenny Reed.
Michael McQuaid.
Very good, thank you. So we'll start with reading of the public notice. Can you do that, Jenny? Thank you.
Second. Oh, a little bit of everything tonight. And I sent it earlier this morning.
And other public comment. I just don't want to.
Oh, there's. Okay. Please take notice that the Canton Town Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, December 5th, 2022, commencing at 6:00 p.m. to receive public comment for a special use permit request. The request is to open a proposed solar project located at 295 State Highway 310, Canton, New York, 13617. The public hearing and following regular meeting of the planning board will be held in the courtroom of the municipal building located at 60 Main Street, Canton. Public comments may also be submitted via email addressed to Chairperson Deborah Backus in the email, or by regular mail addressed to the chairperson at 60 Main Street, Canton, to be received by 5 p.m. today, and such public comments will be made part of the record of the meeting. A regular meeting of the Canton Town Planning Board is scheduled to commence immediately following the preceding public hearing, at which time the board will consider and may take action on the proposed project.
Thank you, Jenny. So Ryan or Joe, who's going to do the presentation?
I'll do a quick
Alright.
presentation.
Okay,
Stand up because I'm better at standing up.
I think that's wise. Do you want me to- oh, she
Yeah,
is.
there she is.
I can introduce them to that. I didn't introduce them.
Oh my gosh, okay. It's not gonna let me screen share, I apologize. I can bring it up for this room. I just will not show over Zoom, and
Okay.
I'm not sure why.
Can everyone see that? All right. Linda, can you see it way in the back? Oh, they're coming out. Good. We could probably turn this, we could rotate the screen a little bit so everyone can see. It doesn't need to be towards the board, it should be towards the public.
Too much?
Yes.
You're better.
No, it's fine.
Is that better?
Yeah. There's a little escape button
All right,
that.
I don't want to shut it off right here.
okay, Ryan.
Okay. My name is Ryan Peters. I'm with Soul America Energy, Director of Development Engineering for them. I do a lot of the civil environmental engineering and oversight of development of our projects. So this is our project proposed, and kind of real quickly, I'm going to just talk about where the project is located, kind of the site specific aspects of it. If there's any general questions about solar, very glad to answer those. But the board is very familiar with solar, so I don't want to give a solar 101, but very happy to follow up, during the meeting or after the meeting to answer any specific questions on solar. So this site specifically, this is located at the intersection of State Street and Highway 310. It's on an existing hayfield. We will be leasing this project. So the property owner will remain the same, which is Northwoods property. The property owner is here. We'll talk about a little bit of the history of this site specifically. But again, right now I'll focus on the proposed project as it is. So the parcel itself is about 70.7 acres. The proposed project area is 44 acres. And that encompasses the entire fenced-in area, the setbacks that we need, the access roads that we'll have, the transformers and electrical pads into the middle. So really everything that we need, that's really the lease acreage that we're looking at is about 44 acres. The array area itself will be about 31 acres, 30.8 is what we have now. But again, that's inside the fence area. So that's everything that you would see from a project perspective that's above ground. Everything will be within that fenced in area. So again, that's about 31 acres. So a little less than half of the actual parcel itself. The location that we have on the actual parcel itself, there's a few aspects that go into the location that we chose. One of the main things is we really like to come in and be as little impactful as possible on the existing property. So we really try to limit the amount of grading that we're going to do to not push any soils around. And also reduce the amount of tree impacts, so not taking down any trees when we don't have to. And then this site specifically, we've delineated, done a wetland delineation out there. So we've looked at where the wetlands are. And again, we've tried to stay away from any wetland impacts or reduce those. This is an existing hayfield, so quite frankly, a lot of those wetlands are farmed wetlands right now. For the long-term aspect of this project, we're trying to limit the amount of dirt that we would move in the wetlands to almost, quite frankly, nothing. Like we wouldn't be pushing dirt around in the wetlands to disturb kind of the existing topo there. And the way that we drive piles in these areas, we would look at, again, making sure we're directing our traffic out into the wetland areas to limit the amount of paths that we're taking. We're driving still piles into the ground, so this isn't, we're not doing a bunch of concrete footings or anything like that. It's really just still piles driven straight into the ground. So that allows us to really reduce our impact on the natural vegetation that is there. For the long-term life of this project, which is typically 25 to 35 years. And I forget specifically what our terms are for this project, but I believe it's 30. But for the long-term aspect of it, it's with those low impacts, we're planting pollinator species inside the fence line. So where the array is. And so what that does is really help, in a couple senses. One, it helps with the ecology in the area, bringing pollinators back into the area is obviously a good thing. But also from the soil aspect of it, that really helps create some good soils from a long-term perspective. Obviously, wetlands will need to choose a very specific type of pollinator that we're using there, and we'll bring in our experts for that to choose those types of plants that we're using in the wetland areas where you have more wet soils. Again, yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much the layout of it. We are, you know, definitely want to work with our adjacent property owners to make sure that we're getting vegetative screening to be as useful to them as possible. We want to be good neighbors. So we talked to the neighbors on both sides. We haven't gotten full input from either of them, but our goal is to work with them, figure out what type of plant species. We've gotten some good recommendations from them locally, what works best. So that's been a big help, but again, we want to make sure we get the vegetative screening that is as beneficial to our adjacent property owners, to again, try to be good neighbors. The other aspect of that, the town requires a 100-foot setback from our project to the parcel limit. So we are, you know, adhering to that, making sure that we're adhering to it or exceeding it. The other aspect of it is that the noisiest part of the project is typically the transformers and the electrical pads, which are conveniently located together. And we purposely locate those in the middle of the project, so that way, when you're standing at the property line, when you're standing at the fence line of our array, you know, typically it's inaudible at that point. But when you're standing at the property line, it is definitely inaudible. The transformers typically have a level of about 70 decibels, which is about the same as my projecting my voice right now, but at a constant hum. But that's at the transformer itself if you're standing right next to it. And these transformers are no different than what you kind of see around town, the green transformer boxes. They're not massive transformers. This is a 5 megawatt project. So it's on the small side of a solar development project like this. So our transformers are pretty standard size. So again, these in this drawing, which actually if you can hit next. So this is what our site plan looked like. This is kind of a visual rendering of that we had done of what it will look like. So you know, this is the perimeter of our project. These lines here are the solar panels themselves. This is a transformer here, and that's another transformer there. This is where our entrance road would come in. So we have entrance, you know, access to these two transformers. Again, the goal being that they're in the center of the site. So it's, you know, essentially not audible at the you know, more than 100 feet from the transformer itself, but when you're getting 300 excess feet to get to property lines, you know, it won't be audible to natural noises that you'll hear, you know, ambient noises around the area. One other key aspect about this project, again, it is a 5 megawatt project. So we're tying to the existing 3-phase line that runs along Route 310 here. The major aspect of that is that energy that is connected to the 3-phase line, you know, is used locally. So it's not going out of the county. It is being used by whoever is kind of around this area. Now, will you see that on your power bill? No, unfortunately not. You know, that's ran by the utility. Once it hits their grid, that's up to them. And they manage that aspect of it. So you won't see a, you know, solar farm electrons on your power bill, but there will be, you know, electrons from this facility servicing the entire area here. So that's one kind of big difference from what they call the utility scale projects, which are much larger, and those are using transmission lines that can be sending it, you know, long distances. In some cases, can be sending it locally as well. So yeah, that's kind of the aerial view of it. We do have some other renderings of what it'll look like from the street. So this is right as you're coming along 310. I know this isn't very, probably can't see it really well from the projection here, but again, these have been submitted to the town. So if you would like to look at them, the town does have them in PDF format, a little bit more visually easier to see. You can kind of keep scrolling through these. These are, again, all the way down 310 and Route 85. And so Yeah, I'm not sure again how visually helpful these will be, but we do have them. We can't distribute them. So if you want to go back to the main site plan rendering, maybe one more down, that's probably the most beneficial, but that's the quick overview. The property owner is here, Mr. Curtis. If you'd like to give a little quick information about the parcel itself and kind of the history.
Sure. So,
Can I ask a question? When can we ask? questions?
Not just yet. We're doing the overview right now, and then I'll open it up to public comment.
so as Ryan had mentioned, since we purchased it, it has been hayfield only. There was the location. I thought at one point in time might possibly be of use to United Helpers, that they might want that parcel. I approached Stephen Knight before Steve got done. They did not have interest. I have spoken with Joel Howell, the neighbor on the other side. We are currently renting the farm across the road from the Hayes family. And one of the issues with continuing to farm that land is basically all I can grow is lesser value hay crops there. And it's because of the moisture in the soil. This, I have a great deal of tile drained land. This one has a little bit more of an issue with it, as there is a gas line that goes diagonally across the property. So we'd have to do it in multiple grids and then hand dig under those and tie them together. And we've done that. I've never done it with a gas line, but we have with fiber optic lines, and it's not efficient. It does not work well. And it is just isn't worthwhile. We do have row crops at the Hayes farm across the road, which are a little more value, basically corn and soybeans. And the reason that we have them there is that soil is better drained. It's still springy, but it's not, it's on hillsides, basically much better drained. But that one, as far as farmland, which is what anybody would typically think would be the ideal purpose for that, it just is not conducive to farming.
It's used for hay right now, isn't it?
Yes, just hay. Yep, and it's Reed's canary grass, which is just low value hay that Betsy won't let me sell her.
No.
So,
Okay. Thank you. So the purpose of the public hearing is to allow the residents in the township of Canton to voice their opinion about the project to the planning board. So the rules of the public hearing procedure and their guidelines is when you address the board, give your full name, address, your company you represent, if that's applicable, and your opinion for the record. Present to the board, not to the public. Limit your presentation of opinion to a maximum of 3 minutes, and only one person at a time may speak. If you have a longer comment, then you can go ahead and you can submit it to me or to Mike McQuaid or to Jenny Reed, either one. So we'll go ahead and we'll open up now for public comment to the board. Who would like to go first?
You said comment, but there's not an opportunity to ask questions.
You can ask questions to the board. This is for public opinion to the board. So at break time, if you have specific questions that you want to ask the developers, then you may do that.
Yeah, the board's gonna, so perhaps I missed some sort of public comment or finding questions time or something. Because the board was going to look, yeah, I don't know where I get to ask questions to form an opinion to give. But I'll listen for a little while and see what happens.
Okay. Who wants to speak? Who wants to give their opinion to the board? Yes, sir.
My name is Nick Manili. I live at 35 State Street in Village, not far from this project. For the record, I am for alternative energy. I'm just not in favor of the location where it's going to be. I guess one of my first questions, I'm going to ask a question, is the county planning board already ruled on this matter, stating that this is prime agricultural land, despite what Mr. Curtis has already shared with us, that it doesn't share much useful value. So I guess I question what the classification is for prime agricultural land, but referencing the town comprehensive plan that was set forth in 2019, said that we would classify, or land that is classified as prime agricultural land would be protected, including from green energy sources or alternative energy sources. That would be given higher protection amongst other issues taking place in the area. My other concern is, and may I continue to comment or ask
Sure.
questions? Okay, thank you. In my research and looking at solar projects, because they seem to be a hot button issue lately, both in the town and village of Canton and surrounding communities, is regarding the, when the, sites become decommissioned. There are plenty of cases across the country, looking more west towards California, where these solar developers come into the area. They're an investment group, and the investment does change hands over time. And the village or town or municipality is left holding the bag to decommission these sites, which is very costly. There's heavy metals involved in these, the manufacture and production of solar arrays, and it's not easily recycled, much like our wind turbines that we've seen over in Franklin County and southern tier of New York. My question is there a clause or a statute or law or code that has been written to address the decommission of this site within 25 years of its useful life expectancy?
Absolutely. Have you read our solar law?
I haven't actually seen the solar
Yeah.
law.
Our solar law talks about, prime farmland and the decommissioning and how the money's set aside for decommissioning at 125% of the cost of the project and with a 2% escalator every year.
So where is that money coming from? Is that coming from the
Comes
town?
from the developers.
The developers?
Yes, and
what
it's
is it?
looked at every 5 years.
It's held in escrow somewhere, I'm assuming?
I would assume that's not something that this board would deal with, but that is done.
It's a bond.
It is a
Yeah,
bond.
it's a bond. And I don't mind addressing the prime part too, if you don't. So in reality, this.
We have to be careful because
This piece right here is the only prime farmland that there is there. It's 4.6 acres. And the rest is muscle orange, basically.
who else would like to, is that all? Nick?
No, one other question. We did talk about vegetation a little bit.
Yeah.
How will the vegetation be controlled on this property?
And that there is a operation and maintenance report that they need to give us, and we need to look at it and approve it from the town. And as you know, well, maybe you don't know, but we have consultants that we hire to make sure that everything is in place and appropriate for the town. And that's been done. So we have an attorney and we have engineers that are experts in solar, community solar that we have hired. Nick, anything else? Nick, was there anything else?
No, I'm all set.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, my name
Yes,
is
sir.
Clark Cummings, on 86 Riverside Drive, and what was your first name again? Nick. So you just asked a question about how do you get rid of the panels after their 25-year lifespan?
Yes, there's a
And
whole,
you said there's a plan or something like that.
there is a whole decommissioning plan.
Okay, but right now, there isn't any place in the country that recycles and you know what to do with these. Hold on a second. There's one place in the world, and it's over in France, that they're actually able to do it where stuff doesn't leach into the fields and do all that kind of stuff. Because right now it's actually cheaper to just toss them in the landfills. And a lot of the states in the country actually classify them as hazardous material upon once they're, they're done being used. So when you say that you guys have a plan for that, it's actually interesting because nobody else does.
Yeah, well, we require the developers to submit a letter from the recycling center saying they will accept it. At today's date, we can't project it from 25 years from now, but we do have it for today. As of today, that they will accept those solar panels. So thank you.
Place here in town or around here?
I don't recall exactly where your plan was.
Dang.
Is it Dank?
Dang.
Yeah, Dank will accept them. As of today. And that's all we can go by is today. We don't know even if Dank will be here in 25 or 30 years. Anything else, Clark? Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Yes, so my questions are about the fencing and the wetlands.
All right, address the board, not
Okay, so
the public,
so-
please.
So it was mentioned that, they would try to minimize their impact on the wetlands, but there
Yes.
was roads mentioned and so forth. So when I look at that, I wonder where the wetlands are.
I don't think you're going through the
And I
wetlands.
also
Are
wonder
you?
about the
Just get that
fencing
part of
and what the fencing would keep out, like, well, why is there fencing? And what is the fencing keeping out or maybe keeping in as far as wildlife?
Well, protects the array.
So to protect from humans,
It,
basically.
it protects the array as well. And there's a 6-inch wildlife gap underneath the fencing to allow the wildlife to go in and out. But it protects the panels and it,
From people, basically.
well, from whatever. From whatever, right? And as I said, we have a solar law, and in our solar law, we have requirements, and one of the requirements is fencing,
Is one,
is fencing. And it needs to go around the solar array.
and it's probably very tall. And you said we have a solar law?
Yes,
Sorry,
the
but I'm not-
township of Canton has
The
a solar
township,
law
yeah.
that was approved in 2019.
Okay.
Yes, and in
that-
it, it talks about fencing
so then the
and
board has-
and the decommissioning bond and the operation and maintenance of the site. Absolutely. Yes,
How do you access that law?
it should be right on the website, CantonNY.gov, right?
Just go probably searching.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's right on the Canton.
Mr. Packer,
Go
if
ahead,
you go to the town
please.
Canton website, there's an icon for solar information. Click on that, go under community solar, and it's the 2019 solar law and the battery storage as well.
Okay, so the entire area would be fenced in.
Yes. Around the array,
Wetlands- And the wetlands you have told us have been looked into by the environmental.
right.
They're okay.
And I think these are federal wetlands.
Yeah,
aren't they?
I can step in on that.
Okay.
My name's Joe Menz. We're one of the engineers for the projects, for the project. I work with Ingalls and Associates. So we actually, before, this project was even developed or planned, we went out and did a wetland delineation on site. So we had our wetland biologists go out and mark the location of the wetland. And, we delineated 18 plus or minus acres on the site. Like Ryan said in this presentation, we're minimizing any direct impacts to the wetlands. With solar projects, the only thing that Army Corps of Engineers, who have jurisdiction of these wetlands, consider an impact would be any kind of discharge of fill into the wetlands. So that would be, concrete for the equipment pads, gravel for the access road. So we focus all that development outside of the wetlands. If you're looking at this plan here, the wetlands are primarily located more to the northwest of the site. So we have one small area of wetland impacts, direct impacts associated with the access road. The impacts for that will be less than 1/10 of an acre, and we've applied for a nationwide permit with Army Corps of Engineers. So they need to go and review our delineation, review the proposed impacts, and sign off on everything before that's set. But one of the things I look at is that wetland impacts have been avoided and to the greatest extent possible minimized. That's what we did with this project.
What was your name, ma'am?
Oh, Patricia, and 1263 County Route 25.
Thank you. Did you have any other comments for the board? Thank you, Patricia. Anyone else?
Richard Grover, 73 Buck Street in Canton. Just curious, the vegetation that is shown on this slide or the presentation there, is that all existing vegetation? Or does it include new plantings that are proposed?
No, we're gonna do it by.
So pretty much everything is existing, and then new plantings be along the front here.
But they're not shown on that drawing.
They're these little dots down
It's
here
kind of
along
faint,
the
yeah.
bottom, yeah. So from the grand scale of everything, they come out pretty small, but yeah, it runs along where you would see it, from the Route 85 and Route 3, State Highway 310. And again, we're talking to the adjacent property owners to figure out what type of vegetation they would be interested in, so we can.
And there's no tree clearing on the site. It seems like y'all have a lot of questions about the project. It's not really an opinion or something you want the board to take into consideration.
Come out publicly before tonight, I guess it has, and I just haven't seen it. So you're assuming everybody should know all this stuff we're asking questions about?
The purpose of the meeting was to voice your opinion about the project to the board.
I'm just trying to form an opinion based on the information that I have.
I understand.
And I'm curious, it looks like there's a big space between what you describe as, I think, perimeter line of trees, which in my opinion would be woefully inadequate to, you're not creating any habitat there. What you're doing is just putting a hedge or something around the perimeter.
So if you would,
What goes in that space between Route 310 and the fence?
That's outside of a release area, so that'd be up to the property owner to determine.
Okay, so that's,
so no tree clearing is planned on this project. They are going to plant trees and shrubs to diminish or minimize the visual impact to the neighbors. We do have an email from United Helper saying that they're in support of this project. And the only other neighbor that I think will be impacted is the Howies, right? Do you want to talk? You want to?
John Hayes, 318.
So will you be impacted as well, Mr. Hayes?
I'm that little white house right across from that. I don't think you can plant a tree high enough right now, but I'm not sure to see that. Maybe in 20 years it'll get that high. Maybe probably not. I won't give it,
Do you have any recommendations? Anything that you'd like us to consider to minimize your visual impact?
I don't see how it can do it.
It's tough. Yes, Clark.
Yeah, Clark again. You guys considered it all. There's other people who've been doing it where instead of just laying down square panels, rectangular panels, that you put panels down there that are shaped in different ways, so it doesn't just look like what it looks like. Because it's out there, people are doing it where, just for example, where you would make make it look like a tree. So you would have the base, the tree, it would be panels, and then they're arrayed around like petals on a flower or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of that out there.
You've
I
seen
don't know.
that? Where did you see that?
And then there's also color technology. Right now, color technology on panels isn't that good here in America. I think right now reduces them by about 45%, but over in Holland, they've got it where it only affects them by 10%, where you can actually color the panels. So they're, because right now panels are just blue or black. So I don't know if you guys have
Interesting.
thought about any of this kind of stuff or looked at this, just something, because really, a lot of people's big moan is the look. Okay, because I'm gonna guess that maybe these things at the very top of the panel is gonna be about 10 feet tall. Would that be right?
At max rotate, yeah.
When it's
Okay, about 10
maximum
feet
tilt,
Tall, and you know, that's up there.
it is.
So I just didn't know if you guys had thought about a different way to array this, so maybe it looks a little more pleasant.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Oh, sorry, my name is Charles Rouse. I live at
Charles.
8 College Street, Hampton. Hi, everybody. Could the board speak to the county planning board's recommendations on this project?
Sure, the county planning board has disapproved this project. And almost all the projects that have come forward because of they want to protect the farmland. And so we can take that into consideration, but we have a law that we need to follow. Our solar law that was, like I said, instituted in 2019. So in our solar law, we try to minimize the prime farmland, but there's nothing in the law that says don't use it.
Do you want to say anything about the county's changing position in February of the legislature?
What, you can say it.
Prior to February of 22, the county planning board basically approved almost every solar project that came before them. And in February of 22, the county legislature directed the planning board to take into account whether it was going on agricultural land. And since February of 22, because of their directive from the legislature, they've disapproved every project but one. Regardless, just based on the fact that almost all of them are going on agricultural ground,
So what made them approve the one project? Why was that different?
because it's really poor land.
Really bad.
Poor soil. Mhm.
That's also in the town of Canton, but it's not good for anything else.
So none of the prime soils that are on these solar projects are removed from the site. It is part of our law to keep the prime soils on the site. So when the solar array is no longer in use, that it's returned to the land and spread around as before. But the prime soils are stockpiled if they need to do any grading or what have you. But most of the solar projects, and this one included, is pile driven. They're not gonna put them in concrete or anything like that. They're gonna pile drive it into the dirt. So they're not really displacing the soil. They're not grubbing it up. They're not, bombing it or what have you. They're pile driving the solar arrays into the dirt. Thank you, Charles. Any other comments? Hold on, Rainbow.
Rainbow Crabtree, 448 East School Road, Canton. My understanding, is that these community solar projects are being evaluated, using a checklist of some sort based on the solar law.
We don't have a checklist per se, but we have our solar law that we need to make sure.
Solar law.
Mhm.
I do have a question. I'll just leave it with you and you feel it's appropriate to answer it now. I would like to ask what measurement is being used to determine whether some aspect of the project is going to have a low, medium, or high impact on whatever the topic is in the law. Is there discussion on each topic, or does one committee member sort of take, number one, another takes number two, and then comment?
Are you speaking about the seeker, the environmental review that we do?
However it is that, yeah, I suppose. that's-
So we are looking at the environmental impact of the solar array. And we do that based on criteria that's already been established. And then we also look at what New York State DEC recommends as a small, moderate, or large impact,
So
as
there-
well as our solar engineers. They help us also look at the seeker part 1, 2, and 3 before a determination is made. Then we discuss it as a board and say, do you agree or not agree? And what size of this is the impact on, for example, impact on the land? I think there's at least 12, no, there's like 18 different criteria
Okay.
that's looked at.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for answering that. I want to say that I'm not questioning the integrity of you folks. I know most of you, and I think very highly of everyone and the work that you're doing here. I'm really just trying to better understand and, for all of us to help better understand the criteria and the process by which you're making decisions, because obviously we're concerned. If a community solar project only needs to avoid violating our solar law, perhaps we need a stronger solar law. I hear you all saying it follows our solar law, and those are the criteria we have to go by.
Yes.
And since there are folks out here in the community that are concerned, at the Mead Road public hearing, there was lots of opinions and concerns brought up, and I don't think maybe that a lot of them weren't part of the solar law, so they weren't really things that you folks were going to take into consideration, and I understand that process. But again, at this meeting, I would like to request that the board slows down and does not approve any more solar projects until we can review our solar law and see if it's really working in the best interest of our community. Are we really protecting the future of our community?
I think I said to you at the last meeting at the public hearing for the Mead Road project, that the solar law, as well as all of the zoning law, is up for review. It's being looked at as we speak, and it should be out for public review either in January or February. And I would strongly encourage you to be part of that process?
I am newly aware of what's
Yes.
going on, and I'm hopeful that more of the community will get involved.
Yes.
And I understand it's all of our responsibility to help create those documents.
Yes,
A lot more people are paying attention now, and I think would like to get.
I think it's great.
I'm wondering how many projects are up for review between now and when that law might be
One.
reviewed.
One or two,
Three,
three,
three.
For a total
to
of,
finish them out.
and then there won't be any more room for solar, for community solar.
I don't know.
Do we have a cap? at how
There's no
many?
cap in the solar law. The
Okay.
cap, I think, is going to be on the substations. How many can the grid take?
Okay. Well, I know my 3 minutes
Where's
are up
Mike?
very much.
I hear him. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't time you.
I'll
Clark.
Jump on with Rainbow and on what you said. I'm glad you said that. I mean, first of all, collectively, how much experience does everybody have on from this size up to the Rich Road size that they're projecting, okay? Not a lot, unless you come from California, someplace where maybe solar panels have been around a while. You know, maybe someone like myself or somebody owns a house or whatever might have them on their van or their RV or on their house. And you keep going back to this law. The laws are flexible and they grow as the experience grows and you start realizing, hey, man, you know what? This self-cleaning stuff, I'm sorry, when we had snow 2 weeks ago and the panels out there just past Johnson's, the snow was on there for 7 days. And when the snow was on the panels, unless you guys know something, I don't know, they don't work. Okay, so I mean, and I appreciate what you're trying to do, and I think it's a thankless job, all right? And someone's always gonna be pinging you for something. I got it. But at the same time, I think you got a lot of people in your community that are smart. and may have-
Absolutely.
And may have experience that maybe you guys don't, and I don't know how we would be able to contribute to those laws when they are up for review. I mean, how that process works, and maybe that's. for-
It'll go out for public comment. The town board will send it out for public comment.
The day it's gonna be approved or like weeks
I,
before?
Rainbow, I
I'm
don't
sorry.
know, but I thought it was a period of time, usually at least 30 days. Jenny,
Okay.
forgive me if I'm wrong. Is that about right? 30 days it'll go up for public comment
Well, for the
Mike, do you
law,
know for
for the
the,
law?
yeah, 30 days.
When you get on at the table, participate in creating.
It's
Um,
already been created.
Sorry,
It's already been created.
the
It's just
new
being-
law,
It's being.
it's being
developed,
created. Mhm.
Adding, subtracting, revising.
and
So it'll go out for the
and
public.
the town board. is in
Very-
charge of that?
Yes,
Okay.
they have a subcommittee working on it and that'll go to the town board and they'll
Okay.
be the final approval. But it'll go out for public comment before that approval is done. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments for the board? Hold on, way in the back. Mike Dalton.
I'm Mike Dalton, mayor here in the village.
Did you sign in?
I didn't sign in, I walked in, but.
Sign them when I walk in.
Ryan, could you hand this back? Anybody that didn't sign in? Okay,
I'm here to represent the village board who has taken a stand against this project. We distributed a letter to the board,
yes, you did.
and we believe it flies in the face of the town of Canton, village of Canton, and the village of Roseville Falls. It's a tremendous amount of work went into over the years. And there's some very specific places that we believe it flies in the face of that comp plan, and I shared that letter with all of you. We just don't believe that this is the highest and best use for land. And that, if it can't be used for agricultural, then the highest and best use would be commercial, institutional, or residential development. This property is immediately adjacent to infrastructure. And infrastructure means growth and economic development of our community. That is available. That's why the board stood against this particular project. Again, thanks for everything you do for that one.
Thanks, Mike. Any other? Let's let the person in the back.
Thank you. I'm Shelley Goffeld. I live at 154 Judson on the corner of Judson Street Road and 3. So every time I take my kid to school, I come up over that hill and come down.
Yes,
towards
you
where the
do.
parcel is. At this point, learned about the project from a neighbor very recently, and I've been trying to study up. I read most of the comprehensive, the solar plan that's in place. I looked with documents kind of explaining the project as much as I could, other county documents that have been done about solar projects, and what's been approved and what's not. I noticed the same thing. So I've been trying really hard to get educated before I came here.
I have your email.
At this point, I don't have a real absolutely for, or absolutely against anything, but one thing I do want the board to consider is something that came up in an LUTC meeting. That's the local emergency planning committee for St. Lawrence County. Just kind of as an aside to something else that was being talked about was what happens if there's a failure, specifically a fire. With, I'm sure that like so many things, the incident of it happening, slim to none, very little chance. But if it does, whether in the transportation of those materials coming in or at the site, the stuff that's released is not a good idea. And I'm wondering how, what I did get from that was how well equipped our local emergency responders are to handling that. Certainly we have state folks that come in on those projects and so be a part of that. I don't know all the ins and outs, but as was mentioned here, solar's still kind of new, and especially up here, we're not close by a lot of stuff. So what is the impact of the people locally should that happen? And that's something that I would want the board to consider, and perhaps, stuff that I don't have been touched with.
So just,
See folks about that kind of plan, but that's the thing that I would want to be considered.
just a quick response. We make sure that the Canton Fire Department or whatever fire department or EMS is responsible for that parcel has the full site plans and they approve the project. So there's things like a knockbox that they have to put up that they can easily get in and do that. We make sure that the roads are wide enough and the turnaround is wide enough that emergency vehicles or fire department vehicles can get in and out. So the safety is very important. And it is approved by the fire chief or EMS, wherever that is. But this one is Canton Fire Department. So the fire chief would look at it and approve it and send us a letter. So thank you.
Countywide, we want to make sure that our emergency
Absolutely.
have the tools and training that they need to be able to deal with special.
Absolutely.
My request.
So Shelley, do you want me to read this that you sent to me, or can you basically said it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I wasn't sure that it was right at the deadline, so I wasn't quite sure that it made it. in.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The lady next, did you have a comment too? You had your hand up. Yeah,
I didn't have my hand up, but I will comment on that.
I thought you did have your hand up.
Just as part of.
What's your
I'm
name?
Jeremy, 2 Bailey Drive, and I also have to be on the village board. In terms of emergency services, we would want to make sure that a lot of surrounding, like most of Lawrence County's EMS are prepared for this. Because if there is an emergency out there, it's going to take more than can. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Richard, Mr. Grover.
Yes, I just, follow-up question. Under the existing solar law that the town has, I'm wondering what, power you actually have to influence the plan. Specifically, one example, do you have the authority to, require like a wide planted buffer strip?
Yes, for the visual impact to reduce that?
Yes,
Yes,
you do have that authority.
yes.
Other authorities that you.
We
can
try to
use?
minimize the visual impact the best that we can.
Okay.
Yes.
There's no, limit to that. It'd be a 40-foot wide.
Well, we
buffer strip.
have, the property, we have to take into many, we have to take in factors other variables besides how many trees. It's going to depend upon how big the parcel is and what the neighbors think of it. We require a visual impact analysis with a view shed analysis and a projection over the years to see how these trees will grow and what they'll look like over time.
And the in the area adjacent to Route 310, to the corner. Is there space in there to do a buffer planting, or is it just space to do a little row of dots?
We'll certainly look at that. Thank you.
Well, there's the space. I mean, where's the boundary here between what's gonna be retained by the landowner and where does the project start and end?
It's usually within the fenced in area that the buffering is done. So you can see where the fence goes all the way around solar array. So usually within that fenced area is where the vegetation goes, and Mr. Peters is showing you the dots that are inside the fenced area where the landscaping may end up being.
These are proposed just outside the fenced area, so it would, you know, whatever we need to lease in that area to meet the adequate screening that's required, that's where we go. Yeah. So again, there's, you know, a fair amount of area on front here. Obviously, if there's any other land uses that the property owner wants to do with this area, you know, we really try to keep it as tight to the project line as possible for vegetative purposes.
Right.
But it's potentially possible that it could be wider than just a single row of shrubs,
There is potential, yes.
and you could require that.
If
Under
that's,
the
if that's,
existing law?
if that's necessary, yes. Yes. But again, the depth of it isn't as important as the height of it,
Well, I would-
right? Because you've got 10-foot panels going up, and it's gonna take a while for those trees to be big enough to offset the visual impact on
That was
the
my
arrays.
next question. I mean, it's quite easy to buy trees that are at least 10 feet tall. I'm the chairperson of the village tree committee. We just planted some trees this fall.
that are 10-foot tall,
Sorry,
that are 10-foot tall?
so a couple of them were about 12 feet.
Really?
So it's a
Where'd you-
common practice.
Where did you get those trees?
From a private nursery out near Buffalo.
Okay.
You know, in the landscape industry, large trees are commonly planted. I mean, so an instant planting could be put around a project such as this that instantly screened it. You wouldn't have to wait 20 years for the things to grow up. You don't have to plant knee-high seedlings.
Oh,
So that's
no,
another thing
yeah,
in
we're not
terms
looking
of
at
what-
knee-high seedlings, right?
I'm curious if the solar law
Mhm.
would permit that to plant a screen planting that in fact was a screen planting right away. It is technically possible and it's common.
It's, thank you.
It happens every day in the industry.
Hold on just a minute. Thank you. Are you done?
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is James Galasinski. I'm at 6 Farmer Street in Canton. And I want to speak from information I've gathered, from what I know of solar. I support the project and I hope it comes to fruition. I'm thinking about, personally, I think solar panels are beautiful to look at. And especially when I think of my children, my grandchildren, and gonna get teary-eyed, but I'm not. I want a stable climate and a safe planet for my children and grandchildren to live in, and I think this is a step forward. I also agree with having a diversity of species that are going to attract pollinators, which actually increases crop production and garden production to have these pollinators there. So I'm in favor of this.
Thank you. Somebody else had their hand up.
It was me, bring it over back to, unless there's somebody new. Go ahead.
Doesn't matter. I think solar panels are ugly. And if you drive through Madrid, Chase Mills, that whole area, there's huge fields, there's just shocked. Who knows how many years it'll be until you're used to go. They won't ever be used to it. So, I don't know, been here most of my life. And
I just feel like Canton has been agriculture and academics for so long that they kind of struggle with the whole process. So that-
Thank you, Ron.
Rainbow Crabtree. My understanding, is that Mr. Howie's property is 300 feet or so. I have.
Joel, what are you?
I think it's 330 to our house. on
Okay.
the edge of the project.
So I guess that's one like technical thing I'm wondering about. I heard there will be no audible, anything audible, and I'm not sure if the ORES citing regulations is referring to the like battery house or.
There's no batteries on the
Okay,
site.
I'm not sure what exactly the part of it that is referring to. I think it's referring to the edge of the project. But for 45 to 55 decibels, 250 feet is required. So if this is 70 decibels, I know the Canton law doesn't require any 0 feet for any decibels. I don't think that's something we've even addressed. But if this is a 70 decibel project and ORES for non-participating occupied residences requires 250 feet for up to 55 decibels, and we're talking about 70, I guess I'm not sure if that works out, how many further feet you need for each additional decibel. But I know that solar facilities do create noise.
So
And
the,
I don't necessarily believe a company would say, oh, you won't hear it. You know, everybody's hearing is different, just like everybody's sense of smell is different. So just not sure about that spatial setup.
so during operation, it's 37 decibel.
Okay, so 70 is while it's being.
70 is just while it's being constructed, that 4 months or so, or 4 to 6 months of construction, while they're doing the pile driving. It's that pile driving equipment that makes noise.
You said it's
There's
37.
noise.
37.
Yeah, I can jump in. There's noise reduction associated with distance away from the inverter. So every time you double the distance, you're losing 6 decibels. We prepared a noise study that we gave to the town. So we discussed impacts both at construction, like the chairperson was saying, and during operation. So that's all accounted for as part of the project's application.
Is that available for review, Mayor, the application and the environmental impact studies for the public to review at some point?
Where does it
Noise.
go? Where do all these? They're here for the town.
I don't
I guess
honestly
I'm just
know.
wondering if this is the first public Rainbow Crabtree. If this is the first
I know.
public hearing for this project.
It is.
How does the public learn that they have access to the information? Like,
But
this
this-
is the first time you're saying, come, let us know what you think. You're not saying ask questions.
I
but you're
didn't say
allowing us
ask
to.
questions.
That. But, you know, I hear you saying you folks had access to this information. Why didn't you learn about it then? But were we just not paying attention or?
No, I didn't say the information was out
Oh,
there.
okay, I'm
I did
sorry.
not say that.
I'm
So typically it comes to the board. The information comes to the board and we evaluate it. We get it outside experts to look at it, to make sure that everything that we do is to the best interest of the community. So remember, we're lifelong, well, almost lifelong residents of Canton up here as well. We care about our community. We want to do what's best for us. We're all community members, right? So I don't know, hold on, Joel. I don't know how you get access to all of the information, the developers. Some. A FOIL request can be done and you can ask the FOIL request. I think that's how that's happened in when somebody wanted all of the information from the developers, that's how they got it.
But how does one know that this is even being talked about?
On the Canton, New York.gov, all the agendas are there and the minutes are there from the meetings. No, the agendas are there before the meeting happens. Absolutely. And all of the meetings are public. You're welcome to come to any of the meetings of this board or the town board or any of the governmental community stuff. Okay,
Yes, thank you for that.
all right, Joel.
My name's Joel Howie, and I'm the resident, I have, my house is right next door, 317 State Highway 310. And so my voice is getting a little hoarse and it's out. And I understand everything that Jim is saying about the wetlands in the back, and trying to aid water this deep at times. And I appreciate everybody's comments here. What I didn't appreciate though was notification 4 days before the public hearing. I understand that it's always public information on the website, but we just received a letter from your code enforcement office this week that the public hearing was happening. And if I didn't have a contact with the company, I wouldn't have been able to see this plan 3 days ago. And my neighbors across the street didn't have that contact. They were not available, that information was not available. So I would urge the board to at least let this go a little more before they take their final vote, so that more people can get informed and learn about the project. I served on the planning board for 10 years and I understand.
And we miss you. I miss you, Joel,
And-
being on the board.
The nice thing, like when Brian Francie's office was built next door to me, Rusty Lawrence told me that this was coming down the pike at the order of the town board. Let the neighbors know what's happening, so that we're all informed. And we were all able to be involved in the process. And I think that's what a lot of these residents are.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Anyone else? Oh, Clark.
So, okay, as long as everyone's following the laws, the rules, then everything's good. But and I know you've had people who put the laws together, but no, let's take the laws and just put them here for a second. Do we ever actually look at the true value of the panels and what they produce? There's a base plate of things called where they say, hey, in a perfect world, this is what comes in 100%. This is what you're getting if it's 5 megawatts, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is, with historically, it's like 17 to 30%. And now and that's just, I think, under perfect conditions. If I'm wrong, then you correct me and I'll be okay with that. I mean, I've just been doing research like a lot of other people. But, so you're at 17 to 30% what's coming in, 161 days of sunshine in Canton. Okay, they will bring in a little bit of power when it's cloudy, but not a lot. And then we got snow. So, I mean, how viable is this? I know in New York State's pushing, we're going to go renewable and green and all this kind of stuff, but is this really the best option? Because I have no dog in the fight with what somebody wants to do with their land. I don't give a damn. But I'm just asking about, so the power isn't staying here, it's going into the grid, and then I don't know where it's going, but it's there. You know what I'm saying? You can see it, it's there. But you don't get nothing. We don't get nothing. And no one's getting nothing from Rich Road. That's for damn sure, because it's all going to New York City. They come up here because I think everybody comes up here because they think we're just a bunch of dummies, North Country dummies, and we're just gonna lay down.
Speak for yourself.
If you look, there's a lot of solar coming because it's a big initiative to go
Yes,
to
absolutely.
alternative energy. And it's not the board that's saying, come and
Right.
let's put solar throughout the village township of Canton. It's the applicants that come to us and they ask us for a site plan review and a special use permit. So that's our job. It's to look at the environmental impact and to look at the impact of this particular project on the environment. Not just the environment, but we also, part of the seeker, which is an environmental review, it looks at the aesthetics of the community and the impact on the community. It's part of, that form.
Do you want me to answer part of that?
No. Okay, anything else? Any other comments for the board? Charles?
Everybody in here has made a good comment or
Absolutely.
comments tonight.
Yeah.
And at the village planning board, when we have a meeting with comments like these, we typically do everything in our power to hear them. We take them to the village's attorney, Jerry, and table the discussion until we get a really compelling set of guidelines from Jerry to move forward. But I don't know what your mechanism.
And
here is, but-
we do have our attorney, a solar attorney, and we do have our solar law. That's very well defined. And we do have solar engineers that have been involved in the project since day one.
No,
So we don't go at this blindly, Charles.
I did hear you say that several times earlier tonight. What I'm saying is that I'd just like to be sure that this is all, that everything that everyone says here is being heard and just put in front of the attorney, because I know when stuff comes to us and with way fewer comments, we say, you know, we've got to
I
take it easy.
appreciate that. So
I'm sorry, I know it's been going on a really long time, and I do just want to speak one more time against Rainbow Factory, and thank you. The current law has no setbacks from one project to another, so two projects could be next to each other.
it does have
And
setbacks.
From if another project, for say, were to be adjacent to this. The current law does not prohibit one project from connecting to another. There's no noise limits in the current law. There's no chemical cleaning or chemical de-icing protection measures in the current law. There's no mandatory and there's inadequate vegetation screening requirements. I understand that you take all those things into consideration, but they're not in the law. And I hear you keep saying, we have a good law, we have a good law. There's no protection for visually sensitive locations or historic locations.
I said we have a law. I said we have a law.
Okay. But it feels like there are so many things missing from the law, and so
Mhm.
we'll only be depending on the law and saying, it follows our law, it follows our law.
That is our charge from the town board.
And I'm asking to please, can you just slow down and not approve any more projects until we review that law? Maybe that means we don't approve any projects until January or February or March. That's not really that long of a period of time. I mean, who's gonna start? Are they gonna start driving piles into the ground in the middle of the winter?
Okay, thank you. Are we done?
Just one last comment. I'm just gonna echo what Mr. Howie said about, just, I feel like in Rainbow, I think everybody else in the room too, is I think we really need to pump the brakes on this. Again, my name is Nick Neely. I live in the village, 35 State Street. I just feel like there hasn't been an adequate amount of information disseminated to the residents of the town and village of Canton. I feel like I check the news every day, just a couple times a day, North Country Now, Watertown Daily Times, and a few NCPR. I haven't seen anything about this project until, I was contacted by a neighboring individual that this was coming to fruition. So, and again, I applaud Mr. Curtis for the Curtises for finding something of value to do with their property. But again, I also agree with Mr. Dalton that this type of property should be set aside for commercial or residential development of some sort. I do believe the village made a tremendous investment at the time the United Helpers Nursing Home was established. I want to go to the infrastructure at that part of the town or the village. And it would be a real shame for that to go to waste for future development. So I just feel like we need to take a little pause and perhaps do a little bit more investigating, or at least information sharing with the village and town residents.
Can you say something, Mr. Thacker?
Certainly.
Michael Quay, code enforcement officer. I do believe I sent out letters to neighboring property owners of this project. I can't say how long it takes them to get the mail, but I cannot in my day send out notices to everybody in the town of Canton or the village of Canton for every project that comes before me. That is utterly, I only go 3,000 feet of the property.
I appreciate that, Mr. McQuaid. I'm not asking you to send out letters, perhaps a press release.
There is a notice in the
There is a
newspaper.
notice in the newspaper?
Yes, it is
Yeah.
part of our
And individuals,
procedure.
I don't-
Yes.
But
It's posted 30 days prior to, a minimum of 30 days prior to a public meeting.
The special seeker laws are separate. This is 10 days.
10 days,
10 days
excuse
prior
me,
to a
10 days.
public hearing.
is
So-
the information of the permit included in that? So what they're applying for and any sort of additional.
She read it to you at the beginning of the session, the notice that was posted. And it's on the cantonny.gov website. All the notices for not just this board, but the town board or the village board is all posted on that website. And it's required that we post it in the newspaper for public comment. It's not just in the newspaper. I think it's posted elsewhere too. Isn't it posted outside on the bulletin board? On the board somewhere? Anyway, Joel,
Joel Howley again. Yes, we did receive a letter, the adjoining landowners. It was Wednesday of last week. Very short time to get.
I heard you say that.
Type of thoughts together about this whole process. And also, I understand that you have a lot to do, truly do. But for special use permits, I think it's so important to keep everybody in the loop. I don't know what to say about that. I truly do think that's.
Well, I agree with you, Mr. Howard. I just can't keep, that's what I'm saying, I can't go down Farmer Street, I can't go down Judson Street, I try to get within the realm. I mean, I drop letters off to every village board member because I knew what their position on this thing,
Right,
public
right.
meeting.
And it was customary for officers before you that they would speak with the surrounding landowners.
No, it wasn't.
The item that was under special use review.
I don't know that it,
No, it was not.
I think,
And the law,
I don't
and
know.
our zoning law did that.
We,
You might have hit it, yes, but it wasn't required.
so maybe we need to make sure that that's in there. But, what I'm trying to tell everyone, the notification is according to what our policy is, our zoning law book, our book says a notice, and it needs to be posted publicly. I'm not sure about notification to the adjoining landowners. I don't know what it says there. Do you? Well, Joel.
Yeah, I remember other special use permits like in.
Other things.
Yeah, down, and we'd send letters out to the adjoining landowners.
But did it have a time frame on it? 10
I'm
days?
not sure about the time frame, but they were notified. That's the
Yeah,
big thing.
yeah.
It should be. 30
And they were,
days.
and they were notified, but right now our zoning law is 10 days.
Yeah, and the other item, I mean, we're here at a public hearing talking about this plan here.
Yes.
This is the first time people have seen this,
Right.
which I think is a problem.
And as I said, all of our agendas are always posted ahead of time and everyone's invited to come. Any meeting that we have is a public meeting and you're more than welcome to come. Tricia,
So
right?
my name is Patricia, yes, Patricia Andres. And I'm listening to the last few minutes. So here we are, and I understand it takes a lot to be a citizen and keep track of what is happening in your government. And you have followed your rules, which work often. Here we have a situation where we're here with lots of questions, and so I would put forth, I think, what is being asked for is, that we have flexibility. The government agencies process would have flexibility, and that's what I thought I was hearing. People had come out. They have a lot of questions. They do want to understand what's happening. And we want to make sure that we have the time and the space to bring everybody along in agreement and making the best decision possible. I think I would assume that's what everybody wants.
Absolutely, sure. Thank you. Anything else?
Is there a certain time frame, Rainbow, is there a certain time frame in which you need to make a decision?
According to the seeker that there will be, but on this particular project, there's more the developers need to do, so we won't be doing that right away until we get those surveys back that we're requesting.
You're waiting for more information. before
Yes.
you-
Yes,
But are you supposed, is there a law that says you need to make a decision in a certain amount?
yeah,
of time?
there's a time period that starts once the application is in. And
Will the
is
public
considered
know- Will there
approved.
be another opportunity to learn more information
Uh,
before this.
Absolutely. Just keep checking on the website. The agenda will be there. If there's another public meeting, we'll send it out. So it'll be posted in the newspaper.
Where are we in that? You said there, receiving the application, and then there's the time.
The
period.
application is not complete yet.
Oh, okay, so that hasn't kicked in, whatever that.
It isn't started yet.
Yeah, and what is that? Several months or 2 months or 6 months? or
No,
a
it's
year?
days,
It's days.
once the application starts.
How many days?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I want to say it's 30 days. Does anybody, do you know? 62 days. There you go, 62 days.
And as of yet, the application
Is not complete yet.
Are there any completed applications?
Yes, we've approved several projects. That's all right. Mhm.
We've already approved it.
Yes. Yes. Anything else, guys?
I do have one other question, and that is about which paper or papers should we be looking for? And I just as a, working at a media place, I know that just because we receive it, doesn't mean we have to publish it.
I'm gonna
So we
let
can
Jen,
get it, but it doesn't necessarily have to go out.
I'll let Jenny,
We pay for it.
We pay to post public notices,
Okay.
which are a legal requirement and separate from a standard press release. Those go to the Watertown Daily Times and the North Country This Week as required by the town.
Perfect, great, thank you.
What part of the paper do they appear in? Okay.
as a public member or as a board member?
Legal notices, I believe, show up on, it's a special section of the paper where all legal notices always go.
Near the classified, I think, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all in one.
It's not like a little news sign. It's that tiny print.
it's where the notices go. Yeah,
But they can choose to publish more information.
if they want to, if they want to publish more information, they're welcome to do that, but that's where
And they
it
ought
typically
to.
goes. All right, are we done? Oh, Mr. Castley would like to say something, so I'll let him speak and then we'll close that to the public hearing.
So before we close, Mayor Dalton brought up the comp plan, and this project has has something to do with the comp plan. And Bill Buchan, our solar lawyer, is here, and I was hoping that he could weigh in a quick way for all of us to hear about how the comp plan relates to this project. Bill, can you do that?
He
disappeared.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes, again.
I have to. Go ahead, Bill, I'm fix something, but we can hear you fine.
So I have reviewed the comprehensive plan, which was developed jointly with the village and the town. And John was good enough to point out section 7.2, which talks about limiting sprawl along key town and village corridors. And it speaks to commercial sprawl. It talks about limiting the types of commercial activities and establishing a growth boundary along the municipal borders. So one of the key things that I took away from the review of the comprehensive plan is that when the two communities got together and put a plan together for how to regulate growth and development within the community, solar really wasn't a coming topic at the time. This was published in December of 2022. This particular, I'm sorry, got the wrong number. The planning board can consider in its deliberations whether or not this project is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And the board's powers to accept or reject or modify projects is all couched in the law and in the comprehensive plan. So a lot of time, effort, and thought went into the comprehensive plan. And I think that the comments that were brought out tonight have to do with what is the highest and best use of the property that sits on the border of the town and the village. And how is it consistent? How is this development consistent with the comprehensive plan? So I think as the board deliberates on whether or not this project should be issued a special use permit, you should consider whether or not it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and how does it fit within the overall growth and availability of key issues like water and sewer, the things that spur development. So this is clearly one of those factors that can be applied in the board's deliberations. And consistency with the comprehensive plan is absolutely a defensible reason to modify or deny a special use permit. So I commend John for doing the research on this. And I would suggest that the board members take a look through the comprehensive plan and in your deliberations, consider whether or not this particular development is consistent with the plan.
Thank you.
But Bill, the plan talks about Route 85 with State Street and 310. And it seems to end right there. And Jim's property is right on the other side of this line that's been noted in the comp plan. Can you clear this up?
Well, I don't think that the section, the 7.2 section is strong enough to say this project should not be permitted in and of itself. I mean, it doesn't draw a bright line. It doesn't say that solar development in this area would be improper or would require additional conditions. It says essentially that this is an area of potential growth where residential being the highest and best use would be appropriate because of the availability of services, water and sewer particularly. So in granting a special use permit to this type of a use, you're essentially barring residential development in that area, that project area, for another 30 years. So I think you have to consider it as an impact, and whether or not this development specifically is consistent with the concerns that are laid out in the plan. It is not what I would consider legal world we use on all fours, meaning all four corners of the document speak to your issue specifically, but it is there. And it is something that you should consider in your process. So there's no black and white here. It's in there. It says it's one of the things that should be considered. But how far it goes in your deliberations and whether or not that consideration is important enough to deny the permit is uniquely in your hands to decide.
But the comp plan does cover this piece of land.
Oh, absolutely.
Covers the whole town.
Covers the town.
The whole town. The comp plan, according to what I read, the development ends right at that corner of State Street and 310.
Well, it says, should the village wish to expand in an easterly direction, it is recommended that the growth extend only as far as Route 310 at the intersection of 310 and 85, which is State Street. The north and Route 310 and Judson Street to the south.
That's just the village border. The comp plan covers the whole town.
Yes, it does.
And what I think that it's very, I think that is referring to infrastructure, the village infrastructure.
Sure. All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing. The minutes of tonight's public hearing will become part of the case record. And the board will consider before making its final decision on this project. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight and voicing your concerns and your questions. I love that you all are here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And have a good night. Can we take a 5-minute break? Stand up, stretch. And then come back.
Yes.
Somebody say that very.
Down here coming from Puerto Rico.
I know, I'm short as saying no concept.
And it's gonna.
Yeah, I know there's a lot. Yeah.
Not yet, but I was just informed that they're supposed to, but I didn't look at the date. Or, yeah, I've been to not much, but I've been to two. And I don't know what.
Said you wanted to see something like this, so-
Like has.
So then also you got that, you've got something like that.
So
You've
I
got
need to.
something
I
like
need to
that.
just-
You can find it. No, project. Like solar. You got that one right there. I mean, there's just. Okay, so there's certain things that you can do with it.
But
I
this is
am
not-
clean, so I can figure out.
Instead of having to get it creative like this.
The solar information
So.
and get it.
But you can
Right.
find more.
Anything that's not public.
You can find more online.
Don't know, gotta figure that out.
Yes, for-
Don't know.
I'm sorry to ask all the
It's
questions.
time to build or Kayla or, well, I'm gonna start Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just.
So.
Thank you for your time.
What are you gonna try to get done today or? nothing?
Survey, because there's an issue with my.
Well, I'll be back.
Today.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how. They have a letter into DEC stated on the 7th. and then
It's a while to get the HC to respond to the next one.
Yeah.
Got it. We got it. Okay, when are you done? Today?
Actually, the 7th, but this is my.
Oh, okay. What are you guys doing? Just gonna, are you?
Good.
Yep.
Who's, gonna take over? Nobody stepped up. We don't have to deal with this other than to object. We can throw that out there.
Well, it's not, it doesn't.
Doesn't affect you. And we talked, years ago, we talked about doing stuff like that. And I don't know.
I talked a long time. Start combining. It's all about being more efficient.
Well, you got a lot on your plate right now. You don't.
It is what it is, right?
Okay. Have a good one.
All right, right.
Very nice job. Extremely professional location.
Well, I want to get big.
It's not about us.
You're welcome.
Not about
I believe. There is not. Oh, well, then the next.
Then it goes to the town board and then it'll go up for public comment.
With a solar project in particular, or even a special use.
Picking up, like,
Ryan, we're instructed to come before the 3 days prior to a public comment session. About 6 minutes. I'll have it in the paper, go to Best Western, for everyone, all you hear. But actually, because so many people. John's one of my best friends, but he said, I've never seen the man. I never saw.
I know Joel didn't see the
They
CD.
saw it, but I didn't ask to see. I know where it's, I've been over there. I gave them an area where they can. And that's what we worked with.
I'll try to bring that up.
But it would be nice, the information would be better. And again, I mean, it's like with the ritual, the number of people, that one that said they never heard about it. Well, how have you not heard about that? That's 2 years.
You know, a lot of times it's people don't pay attention until it affects them.
Yes, exactly.
And then it becomes an issue.
And I get it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That part of it. The other part of it, we were recording earlier.
I think he needs to get a call here, like, get our meeting about, guys. Yeah. We get started on our meeting. Thank you. Look at the minutes that are being approved.
Wherever it comes from.
Yeah, what are
Sent
the
them, I'm
date?
trying to remember.
You just got approval of minutes.
Thanks, Brennan.
Can we look at the minutes that Jenny sent out and get them approved?
And also.
Yeah, it's right here. I think it's Rainbow, didn't you? No, it wasn't out there when I came.
She doesn't have to. we
I
all
got
know
here
who
like
she is.
2 minutes before.
Rainbow, did you get your RN?
And then the pandemic hit and I have been
Have you been working?
more than 4 times at my own store, so.
Oh, so you have no money.
Yeah, are you in RN?
Yeah.
You actually contacted me a few times when I worked. at
Susie
CRB.
or, oh,
I was the director of the nursing program. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, thank you. You'll find out.
Hopefully I wasn't
Okay, thanks.
having a whole bunch of complaints.
No, of course not. It's fine, thank you.
Have lots of fun.
All right.
Well,
Did you guys, 12-1? Did you look at the minutes from 12-1?
Okay.
Can we approve them?
One of the minutes had Eric.
I don't know what date he switched. So that may be why.
I was officially notified when I asked. When I missed. Mary Ann, he was an alternate or full
I
time.
know, on Rainbow minutes.
That's-
So it is 12-1. He wouldn't have been an alternate, he would have been. full.
Oh, December 1st,
Okay.
1, hello.
So you
Yes,
have
I
to
got
change him around,
I
right?
got
Because Eric, wait a minute.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, Eric would be full-time, Ian would be alternate. Ian's still,
But not for long.
but as of tomorrow,
They have-
you're full-time.
They have, the board has to make a decision. They can't just say-
I can't fill your shoes.
Okay, so I do need to edit.
Yeah, just added that.
Yeah.
Anything else about the minutes besides
We
Eric
called
being
to
an
order
alternate?
at
He's not in office full-time.
I wasn't here for the meeting.
And you weren't there for the meeting? And you weren't here for me, but Ziggy, you were here.
I was here.
And
right,
Ian was
as
here.
an alternate and I was.
And you were here. So we still have a quorum for that, those minutes.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, can I make a comment, please?
Absolutely.
So it appears that the county review is always going to be negative because of
Yes.
the prime farmland issue.
Yeah.
The
Well,
the
there was
importance
one-
of that,
there's-
the importance of that for us is that whenever we get a disapproval from the county, we have to have a supermajority to approve a project.
Yes.
So when we have an absence by a permanent member of the planning board and an alternate comes in, I'd like the minutes to reflect who's there and the alternate is serving in the stead of that person. And I'd like that to be explicit. I'd like that to be explicit in the minutes so that we're clear that we've got the supermajority that's required. Because if one board member is not there, we could have issues. So I'd also like to ask that we go back through these projects where there is a supermajority required, and make sure the minutes properly reflect participation of an alternate for that reason. So if you'd be so kind, let's take a second look at those projects, make sure that the minutes properly reflect what was done. Okay.
So Bill, would that apply to tonight, since we have one voting member missing? We have two alternates, should one alternate be appointed a voting member tonight for this meeting?
We don't need it, do we?
We're not.
We're not voting.
Right, we're not voting.
We're not voting on a project
We're not,
tonight,
we're not voting tonight.
only on the minute. Only in the minutes.
So no supermajority required for the minutes, but for solar projects, I just want you to be cognizant of that the county is going to put us in that position. And the other, as far as the county involvement goes, it would be good practice to read their decision into the minutes. That
We do.
Just so
They're
that,
included. As well as all the B&L comments and any comments that you've made.
Great.
Yeah,
just trying
they're
to
all
make
in.
the best record we can.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. Going back to 12 minutes. I'll entertain a motion for approval with the revision of Eric being a full-time member.
I'll move.
John, move in a second.
Yeah.
I'll second, but I'm an alternate.
That's right.
But you were served, oh, that's right. So you can
Well, I
second
was
And I
at,
can second, yeah.
I was at the meeting there.
with both of you.
Yeah.
You guys weren't present,
Right.
but you were there in the, for the meeting.
Right.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Thank you, carried. All right, so we're gonna discuss 295 State Highway 310 Canton. You know, we sent out our letter saying that we wanted to be lead agencies, and I don't have the letter from DEC in front of me, but they're wanting specific documentation of any threatened or any species that are endangered on the site, and they are requesting that the applicant provide acceptable mitigation measures to avoid those impacts. So we can do seeker part 2 or part 3, or look at the, or approve or disapprove the project until we have that information, because it might impact on the environment, whatever they decide to do to mitigate those, the birds. And Joe, I think it was you sent a letter, not Joe, Nicholas Akins, who's an environmental specialist from Ingalls and Associates. He sent a letter to DEC Region 6 on November 9, 2022, and he asked that, I'm just going to read it to you. Please accept this letter on behalf of our client, Solar America Energy LLC. The letter is in response to the New York State DEC response to seeker lead agency letter dated November 8, 2022. The Northwood Solar Facility is located north of the intersection of County Route 85 and New York State Route 310 in the town of Canton, St. Lawrence County, New York. The parcel is currently owned by Northwoods Property Incorporated and is identified by tax map ID number 74.004-7-71. The property is in the rural zoning district. The applicant, St. Lawrence County, New York, S2 LLC, proposes the installation of a 5 megawatt AC solar array system with, I don't know how you say that word, a pertinent electrical equipment, access road, and vegetative screening. It is the opinion of Ingalls and Associates LLP environmental team that the proposed solar array will not impact the recently reported sedge wren or northern harrier habitat located in the vicinity of the project. The proposed solar array will occupy 30.8 acres of the 71 acre parcel that is actively used for agriculture. The 30.8 acre portion of the property is currently being used for hay and is cut regularly. The proposed project will not disturb the remaining 31.2 acres of wetlands potential T&E habitat. Attached, please find, then they send out a photo op. So I guess it'll depend what DEC has to say with this letter, with their response. Okay. You already have this. Yeah, it's in the Google Drive, but you can have this one.
Oh, it's in the Google Drive. I just didn't realize it was there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can grab it.
Okay. So that's as far as we can go with your project until you get the survey done. Okay, guys?
What about United Helpers? Did you guys,
Oh, I had a letter. There's a letter in Google Drive from United
I
Health.
saw,
It's an
it
email.
didn't seem like it was totally resolved, or did I misread it?
So basically, this is as far as they'll go until the project's approved, because they don't want to go into getting their lawyers involved and everything for an easement agreement and all that for vegetative screening, until it's a feasible project. So they basically said, we support it. We acknowledge that we will go into an agreement once the project is approved. So we have an email documenting that.
Because the ones I saw, it seemed like last week they were walking away a little bit, and then they came back again and said they were okay. So that will work.
It was more so, they took it up the chain of who was gonna ultimately approve this, and that's where they said, let us check back with we'll check back once this is more feasible project, and we actually have to give attention to it.
Was
But
that
they're-
after 11:30? Because the email was from 11:30.
Yeah,
I
could provide a little more color if you like. So that email only reflects the email communication. The last email was to confirm the phone conversation that we had, to
Okay,
make sure that all those things that I put in the email that they replied to and said, yes, were accurate. So their
Okay.
support and their willingness to move forward as
Uh,
Ryan described.
right. And it went to Timothy Parson.
Yep.
United Helpers, and he took over from, what's his name? Knight, Stephen Knight. Yeah. So one, United Helpers is supportive of the project. Two, that United Helpers and Solar America are still planning to work together as an appropriate and more effective vegetative screening on the United Helpers property. And three, that a draft easement agreement is under review by United Helpers, but that the final agreement is less likely to, is likely to take a different, less complicated.
so we would request that that'd be a condition that we provide that to the
Yeah.
board once it's, approved, then we would provide the final easement.
Right, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So I did look at what the, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry to
Do you have
interrupt.
something to say?
Can I ask a question
Who's
about
that?
the
Okay.
endangered species matter? Ryan, can you give me a little background on how that issue arose and what is the status from your perspective?
I'll defer to Joe on that because he's more the expert there than me.
Yeah, so that came back actually when we sent the secret coordination out. When we do due diligence for these sites, one of the things we check is the state mapper. They have an environmental resource mapper, and if you look at that, orange highlighted portions would indicate the presence of a threatened or endangered species. So when we initially did that for this project, it was clear there were no endangered species on the site. That
Didn't
was,
it come back, excuse me, didn't it come back as migratory birds?
no, it
Like,
didn't, nothing came back for migratory birds, when we did the initial search. We also submitted to US Fish and Wildlife, a federal search, and that came back, similar to like the Sheasley site, we had the monarch butterfly as a candidate species. There are no other threatened or endangered species located on the site. So this is actually a relatively new development, with DEC, that they flagged for us when we sent seeker out. I guess there's some bird survey site that they went and looked at, and there was like one reported sighting on Route 310, looking north into the hayfield. I don't know if it was a call or it was just, they specifically saw the bird, but there was a reported sighting of the northern harrier on the site. And I think adjacent to the site, they also had the sedron. So we have a call scheduled with Soul America and DC for this Friday. We're going to discuss potential mitigation, whether or not we think that's appropriate for the site or not. And I guess how to move the project forward in a way that is, satisfactory to DEC and is addressing their concerns, and also lets us continue working on this project. I think it's the opinion of Ingalls and the applicant that if anything, this project's going to create habitat for the birds, and it's a passive, non-invasive use of the property. If anything, not haying the field, it's going to be benefit. So that's the position we're taking, and we hope to have something in writing from DC supporting that for the board to review for approval eventually.
Thank you.
do you want to review where you are right now, or you already have my notes?
I looked at your notes. I think we're in pretty decent shape.
I do
in
too.
general.
I can just review it for the minutes quickly. So setbacks to the property line, all the setbacks are 100 feet. The required and actual setback table is present on the revised plan, so no further follow-up. Fencing follows our law, it's wildlife friendly, self-walking gate, so no further follow-up. The access road is abides by our policy or our law, excuse me, you just need a town permit for a curb cut on Route 85 as a condition of final approval. Utility notification was verified, so no further follow-up. Transmission lines and interconnection, it's underground, it meets our solar law. So I didn't think any further follow-up was required for that. The panels, the maximum height is 20 feet and yours is 12 feet high. So the revised site plans show, address all of the comments from BNL, so no further follow-up. Safety, our law requires that you share it with the fire department, identify your shutdown on the site plan. And so, and all means of shutting down the PV system shall be clearly marked on the site plan and building permit application. So all we need is a letter from Canton's Fire Department chief verifying approval of the site plan and submit evidence of malware software. Trees and other existing vegetation. I reviewed what the email said to Timothy Parson. I think Tony is the one that kind of summarized it all, and it's really Tony's summary. BNL's 12/2/2022 review. They want you to extend the proposed landscape buffer on the eastern side of the site further to the north to provide additional screening from viewpoint number 4 and include additional proposed landscape buffering to the portion of the panels that are visible from the viewpoint number 2 as such as seen on the left side of the view number 2 rendering, and provide revised visual renderings following the requested adjustment to the proposed landscape buffering.
Sorry,
So-
sorry to interrupt. You said
so-
there was a letter, 12/2 from BNL. I don't think we got a copy of that.
Oh, there's one right here, if you want to take that one. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
And then for prime agricultural land,
Thank you.
our policy is that you minimize the displacement of prime soils that are in active agricultural production. And the total area of disturbance was revised to be about 4.7 plus or minor acres to limit that disturbance of the prime farmland. So I didn't think we needed any further follow-up on it. Glare, you submitted a glare analysis and it shows there's no, BNL reviewed it on 12/2 and suggests no adverse impacts due to glare. Noise, a noise analysis was done as we required, and BNL reviewed it on 12/2/2022. And they suggested, number one, during normal operations, the closest inverter to the nearest residential property will produce approximately 37 decibels, which is equivalent to a hum of a refrigerator. The pile driving equipment has a higher decibel level and it is 75, equivalent to a gas lawnmower. So we're asking that you notify your residents of the dates and times of your construction so that they're aware of and can expect that noise. Other than that, I didn't think we needed any more follow-up. Lighting, no lighting is going to be on the site, so nothing further on it. The visual impact assessment, BNL did a review on 12/2/2022. They said extend the, oh, well, I already said it, extend your landscaping, right? To help with that, minimizing that visual impact. Your SWEP, 12/2/2022. All comments on the SWEP have been addressed in the revised submission. And the applicant has acknowledged that the final SWEP and site plans shall be stamped by a professional engineer, and that should be it. And we also talked in October about removal of the gravel access road, how that will be decompacted, and it is in the decommissioning plan dated 8/1/2022. The decommissioning plan, BNL looked at it on 12/2/2022, and they said the applicant has acknowledged that the Development Authority of the North Country, DANC, is willing to accept decommissioning waste recyclables from the project site. It is BNL's understanding that DANC will currently accept decommissioning waste. However, this could change in the future pending proposed New York State DEC regulations for disposable recycling of solar panels. I think in the October meeting, we requested that you add the associated prevailing wage rate, labor costs, and hauling expenses, and I didn't see that. I didn't see that in the plan. It wasn't revised.
Yeah, that was.
So And then I would ask B&L if you take another look at that decommissioning plan to make sure that it is appropriate.
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you. Site plans, the wetland delineation report, 8/15/2022 was submitted. We had asked for an easement from Iroquois Gas. Because it's running right over the gas line, right? So if you get that prior to construction, that would be great.
Yep.
I don't know if you,
We're in talks with them.
I don't know if you can get it before you start construction, you know, when you,
That would definitely be the goal.
Yeah.
We'd have to have that before starting construction, because to finalize our plans where that fence is gonna go, they're gonna have to sign off on it. But we're in talks with them.
okay, very good. And then B&L looked at the revised site plans 10/27/22. And they had a couple of suggestions. One, revise the proposed landscape buffering on the site plans for the visual impact assessment comments. And get them stamped by professional, right?
Right.
And then your lease agreement was there. It was signed on 10/4/21. So I didn't think that we needed any further follow-up for that, right? And then the ag data statement, it's required because it's in an ag district 2. It was submitted, so I didn't think we needed any further follow-up. An O&M plan, it was reviewed by B&L, and they just recommend a copy of the maintenance agreement be provided to the board as a condition of final approval. Pilot agreement, I guess you're currently negotiating the pilot agreement.
Yeah.
So that's a condition of final approval, as well as a community benefit agreement. Other information that we need is all local and state permits as required will be obtained prior to start of construction, so we will need that. You're gonna get NYSERDA funding, so a notice of intent, I guess that's been prepared and will be submitted to Ag and Markets. And then Canton Fire Department chief. That's it. It's pretty much done.
You
Yep.
guys got screwed.
We felt the same way.
Really.
You're welcome to take my notes with you if you want them.
Is that, Mike? You
I
emailed
think
that,
you already,
right?
I think you already got it.
Yes, perfect.
Did I send them to you?
Not separately, I don't know, if you stuck them somewhere. This is perfect.
Yeah, like I said, hopefully we have a resolution Friday, get a call with them, so
Okay,
that's the plan. Fingers crossed.
Good luck.
so that's as far as the board can go with your application, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good luck. New business. Who's gonna chair this group?
We should have gotten a cake or something for tonight.
I don't need it.
Celebrating with Friday.
Thank you, but thank you. Thank
I
you.
got her a flower.
Oh,
You do?
So,
Aw,
kind of like, here you go, my darling.
thank you. That's beautiful.
You know,
Hey.
but I work in a flower shop, so.
I
hello.
know. Thank you.
You know,
Hey, Kayla, I just want to say one thing. I think your input tonight was fabulous.
She didn't need to say anything.
Yeah. Hey, with public hearings, I try not to say anything.
Mr. Buchanan,
You did a great job anyways at it.
Mike McQuaid here. Come to our attention, open meeting law. We have to have information out to the public 24 hours in advance. Would be the set of plans be efficient? I mean, the amount of information in these solar projects, it's gonna take you more than 24 hours to go through it. Would it be just a set of plans that we could give to the public?
Well.
Should we have an information? I don't know. Should we have the developers do an informational meeting to the public for anyone that wants to attend?
It still has to be, everything that's gonna be discussed has to be posted 24 hours
Yes.
prior to any meeting.
Yes,
So it would still have to be done.
yes,
anyway.
yes.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, but we
Sorry.
don't have to post the whole site plan. We have to post the site plan as an agenda item. But not, Mike, are you suggesting that we need to publish the site plan?
Well, I don't know what we.
we're asking you.
I don't know. I'm just thinking just the front cover.
least the map. Maybe it's one where it is.
Bill, what about access to the Google Drive of all the information open to the public? What's the boundaries there?
It's too much.
Well, this is a good question. This is a good question because of the discussion that was had tonight. In the public part of the session. It's clear people are frustrated that they don't have information.
Bye,
And
Bill.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Other bill left.
So how do we, in a fair and reasonable way, provide as much information as we can so that the public can be informed about the projects? Yet at the same time, understanding that the documents are large format and they're voluminous because they're site plans. And I frankly don't have a magic bullet for this. The use of an electronic file like the Google Drive, if it could be protected from outside forces, sound like a very good suggestion. But I don't know how well we can protect it. So if we could be assured that we could post these documents and not have cyber problems, then I would be all for it, because I think we should respond to the public's comments. They would like to know more. They'll never know, they'll never be able to keep up with the flow of information. But we can make documents available. I mean, the Google Drive for me is a euphemism for the town's website that we do control. So I think this is something we've got to talk about. How do we meet the twin goals? Keeping the public informed and moving the project along and protecting the information from attack. So let me take that up with the town board, because I think it's an important issue and an important question. And we have many more of these projects to go. So
What if when we do the initial thing where the companies come in and present to the planning board, those are open to the public, right?
Yeah.
But we did more advertising of that so that people could come and see the initial.
But then we'd still have to have that information 24 hours in advance. There's a open meeting.
To make it available, I mean. Well, we don't.
So another question I have is a few of the people from the public today, at least 3 that I can recall, kind of asked for a moratorium on solar projects. Is that something that you can also discuss with the town, or is it something that we can vote on today?
well, I think a moratorium would have to come from the town board rather than the planning board. And I will discuss, I'll discuss that with the solar committee to determine, and what would the purpose of a moratorium be? To revise our local law? I mean, there has to be a purpose for it. So that would be my question, is what purpose is served by a moratorium, especially when all of the projects are in the queue?
They are.
Yeah. I'm not sure that it would be effective as to the projects that have already applied. So what you know, we can't put a moratorium on the 94C. We don't have any power to do anything on that other than to participate. So to me, it's kind of a moot question, frankly. All of the projects that we're likely to see. And let me just ask this question of the solar professionals in the room. My understanding is that there is limited capacity left on the grid for new interconnections. There's a hosting map. I've looked at it. Doesn't look to me like there's a whole lot more projects that could be in the pipeline. Do you have an opinion on that?
I agree with you. There's not much more. That local area only has so much load. Once you've exceeded that load, it becomes very, very expensive to get distributed generation projects interconnected. And that extra cost will be prohibitive to getting projects over the finish line.
Thank you, Tony. So a moratorium for a system that's already fully built, I can't see the sense in that.
Okay,
I think the public needs to know that we're approaching the end.
Well, it's not an absolute, because money can solve that. But, you know, now you're talking about upgrading the substations. My experience is that those are 6 or 7 figure kinds of projects.
7 or 8, actually.
Yeah, or, yeah, so community solar projects, they're just not big enough to withstand that type of a hit. So it's always been my sense that Canton was fully built out based on the 7 projects that are in the pipeline. So, you know, I think we should focus on the business at hand, which is let us carefully review and decide each of the projects in the pipeline. I think that's the most productive use of our time, effort, and attention.
it's my, it's come to my attention that you might be drafting a letter to the newspapers for the public to understand better about our solar law. Is that correct?
Well, we've had a number of discussions about how can we better inform the public about solar development. You on the planning board have had sort of a ringside seat to solar development, and look at the arc of everything that you've learned since this started. So I have started to put pen to paper to try to create some documents that we could post on our website that would be Solar 101. This is how solar development works. And to try to prepare the public for the discussions that will happen going forward about solar, and especially about 94C and that project. And so I've been urged to do that. I've started to write about it. I think we're close to having something that we can put forward. And I would like that to be an ongoing discussion using the town's website to inform the public, so that when we have public hearings like this, people come with a little more background and information, and a little more focused kinds of questions or comments. That's a goal, and I hope that we can make substantial progress on that goal.
I would encourage that, but I get the feeling from a lot of people, unfortunately, that they felt that they were underinformed. And they were trying to understand why they were underinformed. So it would be good for us to inform, however it means. It means we reconstruct the Google Drive, or we put more information in the paper. The Google Drive seems to be the most expedient and probably the most one that seems to be the easiest to get at. If you could construct something that was not, subject to what you said, violations and so on.
Can't tamper with it if you're sharing the documents. You can set who can upload, or it's just read only. So, for example, when I send you documents on Google Drive, I set that as read only. So you can just download, but you can't upload or change anything that's shared on that link.
So the computer people would need to get together and figure this out. It's not me, of course. I hardly can turn on a computer. So I'm hoping that seems to be a technical fix is reasonable there. So people don't have to come to a meeting like this and feel that they're underinformed
Or misinformed.
or misinformed or whatever.
Still gotta know about the Google.
Bill,
Drive.
one thing I think needs to be included in your letter is clarification of what our role as the planning board is. Because the people here from the public tonight really don't understand what our role is in this process.
Or any of the groups, like what
Yeah.
happens, it goes to the county first.
Yeah,
and then it goes
the
here,
public
and-
doesn't understand the different agencies that are involved. And it's frustrating to have to explain to individual members of the public what our job, what our task is when we're reviewing each of these projects.
Let me offer this prose to you. I wrote this the other day in response to Pam Rose asked some very pointed questions that arose from the matter the other night. And I've just gotten it approved to send out. So let me read it to you. This is one question out of 3. Question was, the community and public cannot be involved in any pilot or community benefits. The IDA or the town board gets to negotiate and decide with no public input, correct? And I said, not correct by a mile. Ours is a republic that functions through a representative government. You elect a town board by a majority vote of qualified electors. The board does the town's business and is accountable to the community in many ways, ultimately at the ballot box. Your attendance and participation in meetings of the town board, planning board, and public hearings is a real and substantial involvement in representative government. Local government is closest to the people. You know us, and we want to know how our neighbors, friends, and family feel, especially about the things that impact us all. Industrialization of our historic and pastoral community is one of those things that affects us all in one way or another. Moreover, the financial aspects of these changes to our town are complex and critical for our collective future. Through careful planning and foresight, our town created and passed local laws that provide standards, oversight, and will generate revenue driven by these changes in land use. This work was done by your elected representatives years before the renewable energy wave broke on our shores. It is upon this foundation that we are building a financial structure that will benefit all taxpayers in the town while being respectful of the rights of property owners as well as new businesses seeking to invest in our town. There's much work yet to be done. We value your input and advocacy. We understand and share your concerns. We represent everyone and seek all points of view. Most of all, we thank you for voicing your opinions and participating in our representative form of government. We need to send positive messages to the public. And I'm trying to give you some words to work with. These are the kinds of statements I'd like to have appear on our side of the public forum. And I will continue to write and to offer these thoughts so that we can inform and educate the public on community solar and especially on 94C. So I hear you, I'm working on it, trying to move this ahead as best I can. And I just want to say thank you to Chairwoman Backus for your leadership. In my short tenure here, I really respect the work you put in, and I appreciate it, and I thank you. From the professionals in the room, it's important to have this work happen and happen in a very good, incredible way. So thank you very much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, it's my last
That's it.
meeting.
No more sermon from me.
All right.
Thanks, Bill.
But as you were talking about responding to Pam Rose, I thought, wouldn't it be nice if you had a Q&A type session on the website where it would be like a forum, an open discussion forum, but it would take quite a bit of effort to
Yeah,
maintain it.
you know, I would love to do that, but you
Yeah,
would
it's a
not
lot
love
of
to
work.
pay me to do that.
No, I'm sure not. I'm sure not.
Your rates get what, tripled or quadrupled for that one?
Yeah.
I think we've ruled that out, but there are things we can do. There are things we can do and we should do. I'm
But
committed to helping.
perhaps your responses to Pam Rose, as these are some, like.
I just said, how about a frequently asked questions section that's not specific to any one project, but some of the questions that people are asking and a short, relatively short answer.
We've certainly been asked about community benefit and the pilot agreement and how that is determined and who determines that. So that might be a good, a good frequently asked question to put up on that website.
I
You've
really
already
wish
drafted the.
I really wish I had an answer for that one, but at the moment I do not.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's been a delight working with everybody on the board and with you, Bill and Kayla, and I really appreciate my time and Mike especially. It's been a good experience. Yeah, thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Unless you guys want to talk about something else.
I just want to say one more thing. In a tendency to be more democratic, I would push Bill, you and the solar town board members to really come up with some kind of a gizmo that the public can be more informed. I'm not saying what it has to be, but this is the second public meeting we've had that I would label contentious. And it didn't have to, none of them had to be that. And most of the people were contentious because they were frustrated because they didn't have enough information or they were late to the game, which a lot of people are late to the game. That's only normal with any kind of new projects going on. So I would encourage you, I'm gonna leave the meeting tonight and feel that that we're gonna move forward on information to the public.
Well said.
John's the new chairman.
And John is the new.
When is our next meeting?
I think you have one in January.
January 9th.
January 9th.
Mhm. You have two in January,
The 23rd.
the 9th and the 23rd,
Oh, what's the night? What are we just?
Nickerson.
Nickerson Road.
Is that a public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe we can be sure we get the stuff out before that.
So who's going to be our fearless leader for that one?
Well, Mary Ann Ashley has been well aware that no one on the current board is interested in chairing. I notified her again a couple of weeks ago. And so it's up to the town board to determine who will chair these meetings.
What happens if they don't?
No, it's. We have, like I've said before, we have BNL to facilitate the part 2 and 3 and everything. So the chairperson will just take the lead as a chairperson. We'll let BNL do the fine tuning of part 2 and 3 like Mrs. Backus has done.
So that would be Kayla would be.
Yeah, and then,
Kayla will be your chair.
and then.
You're gonna move to Kiestra. Kayla.
Oh, boy.
Then it's just a signature.
Kayla, you gonna be looking for a new job?
She wants to move to Kiestra.
Before you adjourn, may I ask a quick question?
Yes, Tony.
I was just wondering, what's the process for getting us back on your agenda post?
As I get the information.
We have to wait until you get the information from DEC. And once that is received, then they'll put you on the agenda.
They want to
And they'll put you, yeah,
show date?
they'll determine a date for you. No, I don't know how long it's gonna take. It might take a long time, if it's seasonal or not. I don't know.
So negative.
Huh?
Yeah, so.
Take a guess, how long do you think it'll take?
I don't know, I know some of these sites have had, like, birds have been coming up recently, and, we fight with them long enough and we'll just drop it. So we're gonna make, I mean, really, because it's not on their map, right? So there was no way for us to know due diligence wise until we sent seeker out, which is so late in the process. So that's more or less the argument we're gonna make going into it. And then the secondary argument will be some kind of mitigation. Hopefully not adjusting the project, but maybe doing some plantings outside the array or something like that.
You're meeting with them this Friday.
Yeah.
So
The ultimate argument being that our project will
It'll be better.
provide a good habitat for
Yes.
them, that we're not taking
Yeah.
away their habitat, we're improving it.
Yeah.
Just during the construction process, we've got to figure out how to work around that, so.
So when you may know on
Maybe
Friday.
on Friday, yeah, and then we'll.
Do you want us to, do you want the board to tentatively give you a date?
That would be Great.
Yes, please. That's why I was
Then
asking.
if you don't need to do anything more, you'll at least have a date.
Yeah, and if we have to punt for some reason, we'll let you know ahead of time, like well ahead of time,
not
On
me.
Friday.
yeah, on Friday.
Yeah.
I'll let someone else know.
When do you guys want to do that? January? Want to do it in January?
How quick do you need it?
Yesterday?
ASAP probably.
Yeah, again, this one's kind of tied to the Sheetsley project as
Yeah,
far
it'd be nice
as
to get going at the same time.
Yeah.
schedule, so we're, trying to mobilize everything kind of at the same time.
Do you want to do it the week after the 9th of January?
I mean, is there a reason we can't do it in December?
Do you want to do it in December? You don't have a chair. That would give you a month to get a
We do it
chair.
on the 19th after the town board meeting,
The 19th of what?
December. I think the town board meets on the 14th, right?
Oh, I see.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Which,
okay, good.
which, by the way, the link on that is busted. I don't know if anyone here can fix that.
On the town board meeting?
Yep, the agenda is for the November town board meeting.
Oh, I'll let Heidi know tomorrow.
I'm good
Think
with,
you'd have it by the 19th?
if it's
We'll
gonna
let you know
happen.
Friday, and it's all kind of dependent on DEC, but let you know as soon as we have that meeting with them.
I promise they'll move faster if they know that you want to meet on the 19th.
The meeting?
No.
Got one meeting.
December 7th.
The 19th is 2 weeks from today.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm good with it. Anybody else?
19th at 6 o'clock.
Why not?
Sounds like a plan. That's Hanukkah. You have it free as of right now.
And if something drastic.
We'll let you know Friday, I think they have it on, so. 1 o'clock.
What?
And it's my day or?
My notes.
That seems like my day.
Have my notes on what I need to do.
Can we move it to 7 o'clock?
If you'll be the chair.
You can share that one. You have my notes. You know what they need to do. It's not much left.
You do it at 7
Yeah, so
o'clock.
some of it, so we could eat dinner at a normal time.
Mike gets home really.
Oh,
Yeah, Mike stays here.
okay.
Some people do want to get home.
We're home and we have to come out.
I'm home in 2 minutes.
Yeah. He lives in Governor.
I know he does. Well, I'm just picking on him.
No, I'm, whatever.
So you know what needs to be done for what they need to do. They know. You can just review.
One way or another.
whether
If
those
you
things
guys are
are
ready.
And just secret 2 and 3.
we'll-
Bill and Kayla, are you both okay with the 19th?
The 19th works for me.
Yes.
6 o'clock? Thank you.
I mean, it's just a hiccup.
Yeah,
And then you have to do the couple of other things.
I have the list of the other things, yes, we can have all that done by the end of the week.
Perfect.
We'll keep fingers crossed on the birds, if that's the result.
Yeah, just send it all along.
Yep.
Easy peasy, guys. Yeah. Easy peasy.
I'm not gonna share it.
Just one meeting.
I'm not even an official board member.
You are now.
Oh, but
As
I
of
still have to get sworn in.
That's excellent. Okay.
They said,
Doing all this and you haven't been sworn?
I got sworn in August and she said I have to get sworn in again.
Can we adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Thank you. Second,
I vote for adjournment.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Yay. All right, we're done. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Bill. Thank you, Kayla.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Good luck, Deborah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Hi,
I'll have fun.
I'm Susan Clark. I work for North Country Public Radio. I'm glad
You
to
want to
have
come
this
and be on the
discussion.
planning board?
Hell no. It's too much fun sitting on this side of the table.
Safer.
Yeah,
Uh,
my,
Tell you what,
my temper would get me in trouble.
We'll pay
No,
you
seriously.
50% more than what
But I
we
get
get.
paid.
No, more than what we get.
Collaboratively.
No.
Yeah,
no.
collectively.
I know more about this government process. I actually am very, from the meetings, the hearings and meetings I've sat in.
Gotta be.